Discover the incredible transformations in Genesis 2025, Adam, Eve, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and go. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It was a time unfathomable, shrouded in mystery, where darkness lay over the surface of the deep. Then God spoke, and light burst forth, illuminating creation. On the sixth day, he fashioned man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. It was here that Adam, the first man, opened his eyes for the first time, his senses overwhelmed by the beauty surrounding him. As Adam sat up, dawn broke over the Garden of Eden, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose. Each vibrant flower stretched toward the heavens, swaying gently against the warm breeze. He could hear the whispers of the leaves and the gentle babble of nearby waters, orchestrating a symphony of life. Awestruck Adam stood, marveling at the culinary delight found on every branch, the fragrant blossoms enticing him to explore every corner of paradise. God walked in the cool of the day, a comforting presence in fellowship with his creation. Everything was good, harmonious, and flawless. Adam was tasked with tending to the garden, a sacred responsibility intertwined with the pure essence of his existence. Yet, amid this idyllic scenery, there resided the profound truth of obedience. A command from the Creator echoed in sweet clarity, forbidding the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. Then in the warmth of companionship, God deemed it not good for man to be alone. From Adam's rib he fashioned Eve, a being reflecting his very essence, designed to walk beside him. Their laughter filled the garden like music, harmony flourishing as they dwelled under God's gracious watch. This divine bond mirrored the beauty of creation, a love untainted, pure. Amidst the perfect peace slithered the serpent, cunning and deceitful, injecting clouds of doubt. With whispered temptation, he drew Eve's gaze to the forbidden tree, igniting curiosity and desire within her heart. "Surely you will not die," he hissed, "for God knows that when you eat of it your eyes will be opened." The moment of choice approached, a crucible of innocence, as the fruit glistened under the sun. Before they knew it, the bite had been made, and the knowledge of good and evil unfurled its pang of heartache. They became aware of their nakedness. Fear replaced faith, and innocence was shattered. The immediate consequence weighed heavily, a chilling alienation from their Creator. They hid among the trees, attempting to cover their shame with fig leaves, their hearts now burdened with regret. God's voice rang through the garden, filled with love and sorrow, searching for them. "Where are you?" he called. They trembled, knowing they had broken the sacred covenant. The expulsion from Eden became a harrowing necessity, yet in his mercy, God provided garments, a first covering for their sin. As they stepped beyond paradise, the weight of a new world enveloped them, an existence of trial and travail. Still, God did not abandon them. The seeds of hope were planted, evidenced in the promise whispered through generations. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The line of humanity stretched forth, entwined in obedience and disobedience, revealing God's breathtaking plan. Generations later, a righteous man named Noah emerged in a world steeped in depravity, a beacon of hope as God revealed his intention to cleanse the earth. The command to build an ark echoed with attributes of prophetic judgment and divine grace. The flood would transform the earth, yet within this turmoil a remnant would be preserved. As the waters receded, a rainbow graced the sky, a covenant punctuating God's promise that he would never again destroy the earth with a flood. This divine fidelity took root as time marched on, culminating in the call of Abram, where faith intertwined with promise, leading to the birth of nations. His journey toward becoming Abraham, marked with struggle yet filled with blessings, ensured that God's unyielding faithfulness illuminated even amidst human imperfection. Thus the stories of Adam, Noah, and Abram intertwine, reflections of God's orchestrated transformation through time, beckoning the faithful of today to step into their own divine narratives laden with promise. What does it truly mean to walk in obedience? How does divine promise manifest amid life's trials? The quest for answers stands inviting, urging each heart to continue seeking the unfolding of God's sovereign plan. As the descendants of Abraham flourished and multiplied, the promise of God began to manifest. This covenant, sealed with a promise of land, seed, and blessing, echoed through the ages, illuminating the path of his chosen people. Abraham's faith forged a legacy, one marked by trials, but steadfast in divine assurance. Now when the sun rose high upon the plains of Canaan, a deep sense of purpose filled the air, for God commanded that Abraham would be the father of many nations. But the journey of faith would that day confront a daunting challenge. Sarah, his beloved wife, bore no children. Their advanced years bore witness to a seemingly impossible outcome, yet within the arena of faith, hope dined at the table with despair. One day, as Abraham sat at the entrance of his tent under the great oak of Mamre, the faint sound of approaching footsteps broke the silence. 3 men stood before him, and immediately he rushed to greet them, bowing low in reverence. His heart thrummed with anticipation as he invited them to rest and partake of a humble meal. "Stay with me," he urged. "I have found favor in your eyes." With gracious hospitality, Abraham directed Sarah to prepare unleavened bread and a portion of the best calf for their honored guests. As they dined, the air was thick with expectancy, and one of the men spoke. "Where is your wife, Sarah?" Abraham replied, "She is in the tent." The man continued, "I will surely return to you at this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." When the word pierced the air, laughter erupted from Sarah's heart, hidden within the tent. She was old, and the shadow of barrenness loomed over her faith, yet uncertainty mingled with hope as she overheard. "Shall I have pleasure, my lord, being old as I am?" she thought, disbelief mingling with her laughter. The Lord heard her secret chuckle, and the man said, "Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you, and Sarah will have a son." Awakened from her doubt, Sarah could feel the stirrings of belief taking root, but the full weight of the promise rested heavily upon her soul. Meanwhile, Abraham stood silent, grappling with the unfathomable gift before him, already a father in faith, but soon to be a father in truth. And so it was that life's tapestry began to weave its intricate designs. God was unearthing the foundations of his divine plan, positioning a child, Isaac, who would not just symbolize laughter, but embody the unbreakable covenant of faith. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the promise lingered, yet resistance trembled in the hearts of those who watched the unfolding drama of their lives. The moments revealed the transformative power of obedience, and soon enough, a miracle was on the horizon. But hidden within this burgeoning hope loomed a shadow, as the hearts of men sought their desires, and jealousy threatened to strike at the very heart of God's promise. Ishmael, born from a moment of impatience, watched the promise unfold, while the reverberations of Sarah's laughter echoed through the valley of faith and doubt. "What shall I do?" Abraham pondered as the 2 lives intermingled under the heavens. In this moment, uncertainty reigned, but the promise he held was not merely a word, but a covenant sealed with divine blood, a reality that would extend beyond his lineage. And so, as the earth awaited the appointed time, the call of God rang out even stronger. Those who chose to walk in faith found themselves at the threshold of promises yet unfulfilled, their hearts beating in rhythm with the pulse of heaven. For the promise loomed ahead, and God's sovereign plan was yet to be unveiled, a demonstration of love and favor that would transcend generations. What lay beyond was a birth, a blessing, and a beckoning, a moment in time that would echo through the ages, a hint of the grand revelation yet to come. As the days spun onward, each dawn brought the weight of the promise closer to fruition. The sun cast its golden light upon the land of Canaan, revealing the immense beauty of creation, yet it drew nearer to the reality of an impending birth. An event not just singular in its essence, but monumental in the tapestry of God's redemptive story. In the stillness of their tent, Abraham and Sarah contemplated the future. Sarah's heart wrestled with joy and anxiety, for the laughter that had once burst forth in disbelief now blossomed into a different sound, the laughter of hope. She moved about the modest dwelling, her hands trembling with anticipation, and whispers of prayer mingled with the dust of the earth. One afternoon, as Abraham roamed near the oaks of Mamre, he found himself in deep contemplation, seeking the face of the Lord. He questioned in his heart how the fulfillment of the promise would transpire in their lives, given their years of silence and longing. Suddenly the presence of God enveloped him, a presence rich and vibrant, a divine communication that stirred the depths of his soul. "Abraham," the Lord spoke, his voice like a gentle thunder, "I am the God Almighty. Walk before me and be blameless. I will establish my covenant between me and you will be the father of a multitude of nations." Genesis 17:1-2. Abraham fell on his face, overwhelmed by the enormity of the declaration. "O Lord, how shall this be?" he implored, knowing full well the weight of such a promise. "Do not fear, for your obedience is a weapon in the hand of the Almighty. You shall no longer be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you the father of many nations." Genesis 17:5. A wave of understanding washed over Abraham, yet the prospect of change still unsettled him. The very name he carried was a reflection of his journey, now transformed into a symbol of destiny. Amidst the momentous revelation, Sarah remained in the shadows of her own discovery. Her heart mourned the years of unfulfilled longing, but a flicker of faith ignited a flame of possibility. When she heard the echoes of their new names, wisdom pierced her spirit. "The time has come," she murmured, a soft sigh escaping her lips, tinged with both trepidation and joy. Days turned to weeks, and the ground beneath their feet quaked with the tremors of divine promise. As they continued their sojourn, the realm of human emotion stirred unpredictably. Ishmael, now a lad, observed the evolving dynamics within the tent, a tapestry woven with threads of love, hope, and jealousy. Why must there be rivalry, he wondered, the weight of brotherly affection mingling with the pangs of exclusion? Abraham stood often watching both his sons, sensing the pull of divinely orchestrated destinies unfolding before him. A moment of divine visitation drew near, the heaviness of expectation palpable as they approached the appointed time. Once dormant dreams began to flourish, infused with fresh vigor, and the air hinted at impending joy. And so, amid laughter, longing, and an unfolding covenant, God revealed his secrets. "It is time. I will not delay," he affirmed, "for the child conceived in Sarah will be a testament to my faithfulness and a new beginning. Through Isaac the nations shall know my love, and through his lineage my redemption shall unfurl." Yet hidden in the depth of this promise lay a mystery beyond their understanding, an intricate design that intertwined their lives with a future yet unseen, whispering of a hope that would echo through the corridors of time and salvation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows of anticipation, God's sovereign plan loomed larger than their eyes could perceive. a dramatic introduction waiting to unfold, revealing the covenant's true legacy yet to come. As the dawn broke upon the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and violet, the air grew thick with anticipation. Sarah felt it in the marrow of her bones, an almost electric hum that heralded the arrival of the promise, long whispered by the Almighty. She rose from her place, her heart beating in rhythm with the burgeoning miracle within her. Abraham, meanwhile, stood at the entrance of their tent, gazing out at the vast expanse of Canaan. He remembered the promise bestowed upon him, how in the quiet of night the stars had been numbered, not only for their beauty, but as a testament to the multitude of descendants that would spring forth from his lineage. Genesis 15:5. Yet as he beheld the wide canvas of heaven, a shadow flickered in his heart. "What if this promise eludes us still?" he murmured, wrestling with the weight of faith that sometimes felt too heavy to bear. In that moment of vulnerability, the Lord's voice echoed through him once more, steady and reassuring. "Abraham, trust in me. Is anything too hard for the Lord? At the appointed time I will return to you, and Sarah shall have a son." Genesis 18:14. The profound truth of God's words enveloped Abraham, reminding him that the timing of the Lord is perfect, though it often defied human understanding. With renewed strength he turned toward Sarah, who now approached him with a glow that shone brighter than the morning sun. "See, my love, the time is near," she proclaimed, her voice quivering with hope and awe. "Could it truly be that we will soon hear the laughter of our child?" The air around them felt charged with promise, as if creation itself were leaning in to listen. The couple clasped hands, feeling a shared warmth that ignited a fusion of fear and joy. Together, they would step into this divine moment, their hearts united in trust. As days moved swiftly forward, the presence of 3 visitors approached their dwelling beneath the oaks of Mamre. Abraham met them, his heart swelling with reverence for those who bore tidings from the Lord. He offered them hospitality, even as questions stirred within him. Who were these men, and why had they come? When they revealed themselves, speaking of the imminent birth of Isaac, Sarah, listening from within the tent, could not contain her laughter. A laughter that, tinged with disbelief, erupted from the depths of her spirit. "After I am worn out, and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure." Genesis 18:12. The Lord's response, however, was both gentle and firm. Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord? Genesis 18:13-14. The question hung in the air like a promise, echoing into the depths of despair and disbelief. With urgency and excitement entwined, Abraham and Sarah prepared themselves for the miraculous. The time was indeed drawing near, each moment thickening with expectation, nerves crackling like the very air before a storm. As the weeks unfolded, the reality of their situation shifted. What once felt inconceivable now hummed with possibility. The covenant was no longer a distant whisper, but a resounding declaration, a tangible truth. Each beat of Sarah's heart was a reminder of the mighty hand of God at work in their lives. And so, as the Lord guided them on this path of faith, they could scarcely fathom the full breadth of what was to come. In their quiet obedience, they would bear witness to a promise that would ripple far beyond their own understanding. Little did they know, the infant laughter soon to grace their tent would ignite not only joy in their hearts, but a legacy that echoed through history. A legacy that would one day hold the keys to salvation for all nations. For the time had come, and in that laughter, the sovereign plan of God would take yet another wondrous turn, an unfolding mystery full of hope and promise. As the days passed, the sun rose and set with unwavering certainty, yet the hearts of Abraham and Sarah throbbed with a tension like the taut string of a bow, ready to release into the air the promise long awaited. The quiet of their tent was often filled with dreams and whispered prayers, thoughts of the son who was to come, and the ripple of laughter that would follow. On a day marked by the warmth of the sun and the caress of the gentle wind, the divine moment arrived. It was not in a grand display of angels or the blare of trumpets that the promise unfolded, but in the stillness of an ordinary hour. The labor pains began, a symphony of raw earthly struggles mixed with ineffable joy. Abraham, moved by a blend of fear and awe, rushed to Sarah's side. His eyes flickered with unspoken prayers as he comforted her. "Do not be afraid, my love," he murmured, words woven with faith and hope. "The Lord has promised us a blessing, and surely he shall fulfill it." With each contraction, Sarah felt the waves of pain and the vision of anticipation intertwine. The room within the tent filled with the scent of sweat and earthy resolve, echoing the primal call of motherhood. As she breathed through the waves, the laughter of unseen children seemed to call out, wrapping around her spirit like a warm embrace. At the peak of those sacred moments, a cry pierced the air, the cry of life. It broke forth like a miracle unfurling, heralded in the heavens and rejoiced on earth. Isaac, their son, was born, bringing with him a tangible symbol of God's faithfulness. Sarah looked into the face of her son and saw not only the fulfillment of a divine promise, but the very embodiment of hope. Laughter erupted, this time pure and radiant, as Sarah lifted Isaac into her arms. "God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh with me." Genesis 21:6. In her voice, joy mingled with astonishment, a melody that reverberated through the stillness of the evening. Word of Isaac's birth spread swiftly through the land. Neighbors and family, drawn by the joyous proclamation, gathered around the tent to celebrate. As they entered, they felt the tangible joy emanating from Sarah and Abraham, a tangible echo of the covenant that stretched beyond their own lives, reaching toward future generations. Yet amid the celebration, a whisper danced on the breeze, a reminder that the unfolding of God's plan was just beginning. For while their hearts were filled with joy, the heavens bore witness to a path wrought with deeper significance. The covenant made with Abraham transcended mere lineage. It was a sacred promise cradling the weight of nations yet to be born, of destinies woven into the fabric of the world. Abraham gazed into the distance, his heart pulsing with both wonder and responsibility. He recognized that Isaac held the weight of blessings for a generation, a footnote in the grand narrative of redemption yet to be fully realized. "Indeed, the blessings of the Lord are upon this child," he whispered, looking to Sarah. "How great are his wonders! Yet what has been bestowed upon us may only be the beginning." As the laughter of little Isaac echoed through their tent, a divine thread began to weave through the fabric of their lives, a thread that would reach across centuries, tying the hearts of many to the unfolding glory of God's plan. In that moment of profound happiness, a shadow lingered on the horizon, a whisper of what was to come. Little did they know that the laughter of Isaac would be intertwined with challenges ahead, trials that would test their faith yet deepen their legacy. For the journey had only begun. Within the laughter of a child lay the keys to a kingdom, a divine promise waiting to unfold. And it came to pass that as the days of Isaac's infancy multiplied, the joy that filled the hearts of Abraham and Sarah blossomed like spring flowers, vibrant and alive. Yet within the folds of that joy, the fabric of their lives was interwoven with trials not yet revealed. In the peaceful hours of twilight, when the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Sarah beckoned Abraham to her side. "Behold, my lord," she said with a gentle smile, cradling little Isaac in her arms. "Our promise has brought forth laughter just as the Lord spoke to us. Yet is not laughter also accompanied by the weight of expectation?" Abraham, taking a moment to consider her words, felt the gravity of her insight. "Indeed, my beloved," he replied thoughtfully, "for the Lord knows the path we are to walk, and laughter shall be sanctified with obedience. We must nurture the gift we have been given, loving Isaac as the future of our covenant. Days turned into weeks, and Isaac grew, innocent in his laughter, cherished in the hearts of his parents. Yet midst their joy, Sarah could not escape a haunting thought concerning Hagar and the son born of her, Ishmael. Tensions quietly bubbled beneath the surface, unfurling like storm clouds on the horizon. One evening, as the sun set, casting long shadows over the land, Sarah's heart stirred with unease. She turned to Abraham, her voice trembling with resolve. "Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for they shall not share in the inheritance that belongs to Isaac." Abraham was grieved at her words, distressed for Ishmael, his firstborn. "But the boy may also be made into a nation, for he is my seed," he pleaded, his heart caught in turmoil. Yet God, knowing the depths of each heart, stepped into their deliberation with wisdom. "Do not be distressed, Abraham. Listen to your wife, for in Isaac shall your seed be called." Genesis 21:12. That very night, under the canopy of stars, God spoke to Abraham, affirming his covenant with him and his lineage. He instructed him to heed Sarah's request and to send Hagar and Ishmael away, promising to bless them also, for they too were part of his sovereign plan. As dawn broke, Abraham rose early, the weight of obedience weighing heavily upon him. He prepared provisions for Hagar and her son, and with a heart torn yet resolute, he sent them into the wilderness. He watched as they vanished from sight, a heart filled with sorrow yet tethered to the promise of God. In the midst of the wilderness, Hagar wandered, her spirit crushed, uncertain of the future. Yet God, who sees the afflictions of the broken-hearted, spoke to her in her despair. "Fear not, for I have heard the voice of the lad where he is. I will make him a great nation." Genesis 21:17-18. From that moment, hope was restored within her as water flowed into their parched throats, and the promise began to unfurl anew amidst the barren landscape. These events stirred within Isaac's household as well. A shadow of uncertainty loomed as Sarah watched him grow, wondering what challenges awaited the generations to come. Abraham often prayed for understanding, feeling the weight of the future resting upon him. "With our little one, laughter may become the burden of faith," he declared one quiet evening, turning his gaze toward the stars. And the heavens echoed with silent promises, hinting at destinies intertwined and the journey that had only begun. For the laughter of Isaac was not only a joyful sound, it would herald a greater story, saturated with the substance of hope and the certainty of divine promise. But what shadows would this laughter encounter? What lessons lay ahead for the generations yet unborn? A shifting landscape awaited them, calling forth a new chapter in God's unfathomable narrative. And it came to pass that as the days rolled onward, Isaac blossomed in the innocence of his youth, a tender delight in the eyes of his parents. Yet beneath the surface of happiness, unspoken fears crept silently, and the echoes of Hagar and Ishmael lingered in the air, reminders of decisions made under the weight of divine purpose. One afternoon, as the sun stood high and unyielding, Sarah observed Isaac playing, his laughter ringing through the vastness of the fields they called home. But her heart was heavy, burdened by the memories of the boy cast into the wilderness. "Abraham," she said quietly, her voice laced with concern, "the future looms like a shadow. We must teach Isaac the ways of the Lord, for the path ahead will not be without trials." Abraham turned his gaze to Sarah, seeing the concern etched upon her brow. "Indeed, my beloved, let us instill the love of the Almighty within him, for the days will come when his faith will be tested, as it has been ours." He gathered Isaac into his arms, whispering words of promise passed down through generations. "You are a child of the covenant, Isaac. The hand of God is upon you." As seasons changed, the Lord who had brought joy in the form of Isaac shifted the trajectory of their lives once more. He tested the faith of Abraham, calling to him one fateful day from the heights of heaven. Abraham, take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. Genesis 22:2. The command struck Abraham like lightning, filling his heart with dread, yet igniting a flame of obedience. He arose early the next morning, gathering wood and setting forth to obey. Sarah, unaware of the weight of his task, prepared a meal for her son, unaware of the storm that reared ahead. As they traveled, a solemn silence enveloped them. Isaac spoke, "My father, behold the fire and the wood. But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Genesis 22:7. The question hung heavy in the air, challenging the very faith of Abraham. The patriarch, his heart aching with emotion, replied with unwavering trust, "My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering." Genesis 22:8. They reached the appointed place, Mount Moriah, and Abraham built an altar there, laying the wood in order, then binding Isaac and laying him upon the altar. The heavens held their breath as Abraham raised the knife, and in that suspended moment a voice pierced the stillness. "Abraham! Abraham!" Genesis 22:11. "Here I am," he responded, filled with fear and awe. The Lord declared, "Do not lay your hand on the lad, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me." Genesis 22:12. In a thicket nearby, God had provided a ram, its horns caught in the bushes, an embodiment of grace and provision. Abraham beheld and offered the ram in place of Isaac, calling the name of the place, "The Lord will provide." Genesis 22:14. Thus did the covenant of promise reaffirm itself, and the angel of the Lord blessed Abraham, proclaiming, "In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice." Genesis 22:18. But what new paths would this blessing forge for Isaac? What lessons of faith would echo through his life? The ramifications of this faithful act cascaded beyond comprehension, weaving a testament of God's boundless grace and the depths of obedience. For the laughter of Isaac was now intertwined with a deeper understanding of sacrifice, illuminating the path ahead, which lay heavy with both promise and challenge. As the journey continued, a divine narrative unfurled, anticipating the day when the Son of Promise would emerge, a greater revelation leading to the fulfillment of God's master plan. And it came to pass after these things that Abraham returned to his servants, and they rose up and went together to Beersheba. There the landscape sprawled beneath the sun, beneath which their tents had been pitched in contentment. But within Abraham's heart remained the sweet taste of obedience, born from the fear of the Lord, mingled with the joy of preservation. As time flowed like the gentle streams of the land, Isaac grew, embodying not merely the promise of Abraham, but also the burden of faith. He oft sought the face of God in prayer, weaving the lessons of his father into the fabric of his being. Little did they know that shadows of trial still lingered about them, and whispered threats yet awaited within the depths of their legacy. One day, as Isaac wandered the fields, he encountered a servant of Abraham, the steward tasked with the family's household, the trusted Eliezer of Damascus. "My lord Isaac," Eliezer greeted with reverence, "the winds of change stir about us." His eyes bore the weight of tidings, and Isaac paused, his heart brimming with expectation. "What news do you bring?" Isaac implored, his voice steady yet curious. The steward whispered softly, "Your father has journeyed to the land of the Philistines. A famine has afflicted the region. He seeks sustenance for our family. Yet the Lord spoke unto him anew, saying, 'Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake.'" Genesis 26:24. A flicker of wonder crossed the boy's face. To know that his father still conversed with the Almighty. "Take heart, For in your lineage runs the covenant of your father, Eliezer continued. Yet prepare yourself, for trials arise and shape us as the potter shapes clay. The coming years may test your spirit. As Isaac pondered these words, the land around him changed, for the Philistines bore enmity toward his father, calling forth discord amidst the promise. Driven by jealousy, they filled the wells of Abraham with dirt, stifling the water that quenched the earth. But where calamity met perseverance, the hand of the Lord provided sustenance. In faith, Isaac prepared to follow the path laid by his father, drawing strength from the knowledge of the Mighty One who had called them. One night, as he lay beneath the vast expanse of stars, he sought the Lord with downturned eyes, beseeching him to honor the covenant. O Lord, let your blessings fall like the dew upon the fields, and guide my feet along your paths, he prayed fervently. That night, a vision visited Isaac, dreams braided with the promise. The Lord stood before him, stating, I am the God of Abraham your father. Do not fear, for I am with you. Genesis 26:24. In that holy moment, Isaac felt the mantle of responsibility weighing heavily upon him, while also bearing a conviction strengthened by divine assurance. When dawn took flight, Isaac arose with resolve, knowing that his journey to maintain the covenant would echo through ages to come. As he walked among the fields, the sun casting golden light around him, he began to realize the profound truth. The legacy of faith must harness the trials of life to teach wisdom and obedience. Yet a quiet whisper beckoned both Isaac and the hearts of those around him, for looming on their horizon was a promise yet to be fulfilled, a promise that would ultimately intertwine the destinies of nations and bend the fabric of history toward divine reconciliation. How would Isaac navigate this burgeoning destiny? Would he embrace the mantle of his father and lead his lineage back to the wells of promise? The stage was set, and God's master plan began to take further shape, awaiting the moment it would burst forth in unimaginable glory. And it came to pass that Isaac discerned the stirring in his spirit, for he was not oblivious to the adversities that rolled like dark clouds over the land. The Philistines encroached upon God's covenant people, and discord filled the air. With profound resolve, Isaac wandered closer to the wells that had served as a lifeline to his father's house, intent on restoring what had been lost. As the sun rose brightly, casting rays of hope over the dry lands, Isaac gathered his servants. We shall go forth and clear our father's wells, he declared with a heart steadfast in faith. The servants rallied around him, filled with a sense of purpose, their hands ready to toil, and thus they set forth to the first well that Abraham had dug, known as Esek, which meant contention. Upon arrival, they beheld that the Philistines had indeed filled it with earth, a symbol of the bitterness that sought to drown the blessings of God's covenant. Yet Isaac, encouraged by the promise of the Lord, said to his men, Let us labor together, for the Lord shall renew our strength. With pickaxes raised, they worked ardently, and soon the waters gushed forth once more, sparkling under the sunlight as a reminder of God's providence. Isaac called that place Rehoboth, saying, For now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Genesis 26:22. Yet the Philistines, not content to see their efforts drown, grew more vehement in their hatred. As Isaac continued his efforts, he faced many trials, fighting not only against them, but against the fears that clung to his heart. He found himself at the third well, which he named Beersheba, for it was here at this sacred site that his father Abraham had made a covenant with Abimelech. Isaac raised his hands toward heaven, imploring, O Lord, grant me favor and bring peace to these lands. Make the waters flow abundantly, that we may flourish in your promise. In the midst of his pleas, the Lord came upon him again during the night and spoke words of serenity renewed. I am the God of your father Abraham. Fear not, for I am with you, and I will bless you. Genesis 26:24. Isaac's heart swelled with courage as he felt the benevolence of God envelop him. With fresh determination, Isaac prepared to build an altar to the Lord. He gathered stones from the very earth that had once been filled, and with grateful hands he laid them in remembrance of God's faithfulness. That altar became a beacon, drawing those who wandered nearby, and soon a peaceful gathering arose, worshipping the Lord their God. But even as Isaac celebrated God's provisions, the Philistines could not rest. They drew together, driven by malice, to confront him. Abimelech approached Isaac, saying, "You have grown mightier than we. Let there be a covenant between us, that we might not harm one another." And Isaac, seeing the shifting winds of animosity turning to peace, agreed, binding them in a sworn oath of mutual protection. As they departed from one another, Isaac knew that God's plan was unfolding, yet a whisper remained in the depth of his spirit. What lay ahead was deeper still, for the promise of the covenant extended beyond wells and treaties. In the distance, the horizon beckoned with untold stories, longing to be fulfilled, the legacy of faith woven through trials yet untasted. How would the generations to follow behold the hand of God through Isaac's life? And would the threads of destiny weave their way into the unfolding promise of the ages? The stage was now set, the hearts of nations intertwined in the vast tapestry of God's sovereign plan, waiting for the appointed time to be revealed in glory. And it came to pass that as the years rolled on, Isaac continued to walk in the paths of obedience, the covenant a constant reminder pulsating in his heart. The seasons changed, and the earth bore witness to the growth of his family. Esau and Jacob, his sons, brought laughter and challenges alike, significantly shaping the next chapter of divine promise woven within the fabric of history. One day, as twilight draped the land in soft hues of orange and purple, Isaac called his sons to him. He rested his hands upon their heads, thoughtful yet burdened by the legacy he carried. "My sons," he said, his voice steady like the ancient oak under which they gathered, "let my heart share with you the essence of our covenant with the Most High God. For he who promised our ancestors is faithful to fulfill every word." Esau, with wild hair and broad shoulders, nodded, while Jacob, the keeper of the tents, gazed attentively, his fingers tracing the earth below. In this holy moment, Isaac imparted to them the stories of their lineage, the promises, the trials, the divine interventions, and he knew the weight of destiny rested upon their shoulders. Days turned into seasons, taut with anticipation. Under the shadow of his father's legacy, Jacob's journey unfolded, filled with dreams divine, aspirations unfulfilled, and struggles that mirrored those of Abraham and Isaac before him. He wrestled with not only the flesh of men, but with the very purposes of God, a wrestling that would lead to an identity shaped and transformed. On one fateful night, beneath a sky glittering with myriad stars, Jacob found himself alone, a divine encounter stirring within the silence of the night. The presence of God enveloped him, and in that sacred striving Jacob pleaded, "I will not let you go until you bless me." Genesis 32:26. There he was transformed, no longer merely Jacob the deceiver, but Israel, a name signifying one who wrestles with God and prevails. In this profound moment of revelation, God reaffirmed his covenant. "I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac. The land also which I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I give to you." Genesis 35:12. Forged in struggle, Jacob emerged from that night, forever marked by the divine, the very embodiment of the promise given generations ago. The echo of laughter resounding anew. As Jacob returned home, laden with both trepidation and anticipation, he would face his brother Esau. Yet the threads of reconciliation began to weave between them, each man transformed by the love of God. "For to see your face is like seeing the face of God," Jacob exclaimed, trembling, yet found solace in his acceptance and forgiveness. In reflective moments, Isaac watched his sons, his heart swelling with gratitude and awe for the Lord's faithfulness. The tent where laughter once mingled with struggles had become a sanctuary of promises fulfilled and lives transformed. Once again the laughter of children filled the air, reverberating through the fabric of their family's legacy. Generations passed like a river flowing toward the ocean of time. The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob bore witness to God's unwavering fidelity through trials, flooding rains, and joyous harvests. They lived in the land of promise, yet the call stretched far beyond their current reality, beckoning them to look forward to a future yet unseen. As the sun set upon the horizon of time, the blessings poured forth like rain, cascading upon thirsty ground. The voice of the Lord carried through the generations, guiding his people to become a light to the nations. A nation filled with laughter, trials, sacrifices, and a covenant that would endure for eternity, a legacy culminating in Christ, the ultimate promise kept. As you reflect upon this divine narrative, remember the threads of faith intricately woven in Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's lives. God calls each of us into our own distinct stories, inviting hearts to embrace the unfolding promises yet to be fulfilled. Will you step forward in faith and recognize the power of laughter intertwined with obedience? Now is the time to subscribe and join us in sharing the testimony of God's timeless faithfulness. Hit that like button to spread the message far and wide through the algorithm so that others may encounter the profound truth of God's Word. Share your reflections in the comments below. How has this story shifted your perspective on faith? And don't wait another moment. Share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. Together, let's spread hope and redemption.